Thank you. Good morning and welcome to sunny Johannesburg, Program Director, Your Excellencies and distinguished guests, and I hope you have a good stay in the next 3 days. What I'd like to do is give you some key messages. I've been taught by my communications team, you always, your first slide is what you remember, so I want to give you the key messages up front. I'll share with you something that McKinsey Consulting have done. They've produced they've done a lot of research on where Africa is going, and I thought I'd share some slides from their research and then give you an overview of Eskom and where we're going in our current infrastructure program and some remarks as we conclude. Some key messages from us. I think the first one is, as Eskom, we are committed to moving to a low emitting and low water use energy mix. We are clear that we also have to do this by supporting energy efficiency initiatives in our own operations and those of our customers and stakeholders. We run probably one of the biggest integrated demand management programs in the world. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The second is we're also very clear that Eskom, although we currently supply 95% of the electricity needs of the country, cannot continue doing it on our own. We do need and we welcome the private sector into our country and to partner with us as well in meeting the future needs of the country. Those needs must be met by looking at options in the region, in Southern and Central Africa. It must look at generation close to the customers. You might look at cooperatives coming in, as my colleague from Department of Energy mentioned. We've got to make sure this tariff trajectory is affordable to support the industry, but also to ensure customers can pay. And then finally, it must support the aspirations the government has around broader socioeconomic development, but particularly job creation and local supply development. Important decisions on the integrated resource plan implementation need to be made, and you've heard some already been made. And we have created momentum with the current IPP procurement programs and Eskom new build program, and we've got to continue with that momentum. But in all of this, the funding of that plan needs serious consideration. It's not going to be easy, but it has to be done. And as my colleague from DOE said, if we don't do it, then we have concerns in future about adequacy of supply. We must also remember that there are game changers that will come along. I think currently, at the moment, gas is one of those, and South Africa has to do some work around understanding what's the feasibility of those options and how do we use it. If you look at the work McKinsey's done, Africa is a very exciting place to be. It is the second fastest growing continent. And if you look at the population, it's going to equal China and India very soon. That's the first message. The second is if you look at the top 30 economies in the continent, many of them have grown faster in the 2000s rather than the 1990s. And you'll see at least 6 have got growth rates above 6%. And this growth is based on 4 factors. One is around macro and political stability. We've seen inflation stabilize, we've seen conflict stabilize, we've seen serious reforms in many countries. We mentioned Nigeria, South Africa itself has gone through tax reforms, Egypt. So there's significant reforms happening. We have something called healthy urbanization, where urbanization has been accompanied by productivity increases in the workforce. There is a concern also with urbanization in that we also have to support the agricultural sector and agro-processing. How do we do both? Because those are possible growth and job creation opportunities. And we've seen a significant commodity boom. The challenge for us is to make sure we take it down the value chain, and we're just not exporting minerals and then re-importing finished goods. The challenge that lays before an energy company, though, is how to ensure we provide access to energy. Now, the IEA, the International Energy Association, has indicated that currently the estimate is around 1.5 billion people don't have electricity or any access to electricity. And a significant proportion of that is in sub-Saharan Africa. And by 2030, if nothing really changes, the majority will be in sub-Saharan Africa. And you'll see South Asia and China have made significant progress by that time. So we have a big challenge in front of us. For those who do not know Eskom, a quick overview. We are a wholly state-owned company. We have electricity sales in the region of 224 terawatt hours. Our biggest customers are municipalities who on-sell it to the end users. We have our own significant industrial customer base. We supply 4.5 million customers, residential customers, mainly prepaid and lower income. We have just close to 44,000 employees. We have 4.9 million customers, installed base of 44,000 megawatts, but just about 42,000 is operational. We have a transmission network and distribution network that spans the area of Western Europe, but with a significantly smaller population. So that's a big challenge for us as well. And we've become very good at operating a very constrained and extended power transmission network. We have started a new build program of 17 gigawatts, and we've installed close to 6 gigawatts. Together with the country, our ratings was recently downgraded, and that's a concern to us, and something that we're going to monitor and ensure that we don't let go down any further. As my colleague from DOE mentioned, we have seen a significant growth in the economy, but it hasn't been matched by the same level of investment in the power sector. And that's something we need to catch up. While we do that, our dilemma is how do we keep the lights on and how do we move to a cleaner energy mix? And you've seen this picture where the continent, and you'll see a bit of West Africa, South Africa, and Southern Africa and North Africa, but a lot of patch of dark in the night. And that cannot be acceptable. It is not morally justifiable to keep going this way. The IRP, the Integrated Resource Plan published by the Department of Energy, sets out a roadmap for the next 20 years. It might be adjusted, but at least there's a clear roadmap, and we've got to start implementing elements of that. And we've started doing that with the Department of Energy. 42% of which is from renewables, a significant portion from nuclear, but you'll see that there's a mix of resources. So it's a more balanced energy mix that we see coming on. What are the key messages around the implementation? Firstly, we have to implement it, otherwise we are going to constrain economic growth. We've got to see the private sector coming in through the independent power producer programs, but as well as partnerships with Eskom. The plan will be difficult to finance, and we have to carefully consider the implementation through to 2030. Eskom itself, Eskom's role still is being finalized. We are keen to play a significant role in this plan, and we are waiting decisions on our role beyond Kusile Power Station. Eskom currently, if you look at our current fleet, it's close to 30 years old on average. Our oldest plant is 49 years old, and we have to put a lot of effort into refurbishing and maintaining this plant, and we need to, on average, maintain it for 10% of the time for the next 3 years. So that's one of the things that we have to do. If you look at our infrastructure program, our return to service plant, probably the biggest in the world, we have a target of 3,700. We've done 3,370, and we've only got 330 left before the end of the financial year. Our base load program till 2018 is 9,500 megawatts roughly. The first unit hopefully towards the end of next year. Our peaking and renewables sector, we've done already we want to do 3,400, and we've got 1,300 megawatts left. That's mainly at Ingula Power Station. It's a pump storage. If you look at refurbishment of existing plant, we have 300 megawatts mainly at Arnott Power Station, and that has been done. We're also refurbishing some of our older stations, mainly control and instrumentation and smaller plant, but the main capacity upgrades have been done. We have a significant rolling transmission program. The current program calls for 6,500 kilometers. We've already done 4,000, and we see ourselves doing another 2,300 for the current phase. But this is a rolling plan of between 500 to 1,000 kilometers every year, possibly for the next 20 years. So that's a significant transmission upgrade. At the same time, we have to put a lot of transformation capacity in, over 30,400 MVA, and we've already done 20,000. And again, that's going to be a rolling plan. So these are all very significant infrastructure programs on their own, let alone together. We're the biggest in the country, one of the biggest in the world as a group. This is our generation capacity per year. As I mentioned, it was a 17 gigawatt program. We've done just over 5, close to 6 gigawatts, and we have 11,200 megawatts to go. And this is how we phase it over the next 6 to 7 years. But what this program has done is it started to ensure that we develop local supplies. There's a significant portion of local content, over 50%. Developing skills with the various implementation partners. We've opened an artisan school at the Eskom Academy of Learning, welding school, but there are other significant partnerships that we have done. At least 40,000 jobs created directly and indirectly. The view is that could be as much as 160,000. We've developed roads and railways where we have a footprint. If you go to the Limpopo province, you'll see that impact already, and other parts of the country. And we've also spread this wherever Eskom has had its footprint, based on the growth that we're seeing. So it's a significant growth program. We as Eskom are clear, as I've mentioned earlier, that we're going to contribute to a sustainable energy future for South Africa, and we're doing this in 2 ways. One is reducing the intensity of our energy supply, but second, as the DOE has mentioned, working with them to bring about more efficient energy use. Solar water program, we're the implementation partner for the DOE, and we are committed to ensuring that the million solar water geyser target is met by 2014. We run one of the biggest integrated demand management programs. We rolled out over 50 million energy efficient light bulbs. We're now focusing on other technologies, and we're hoping by winter next year to just in 1 year roll out 1,000 megawatts over peak of energy efficient technologies to the residential sector. We've been previously focusing on the industrial and commercial sectors. We're now going for the residential sectors. And that will help also with affordability issues going forward. In terms of our own renewable energy projects, we're building our first wind farm, 100 megawatts. We had pilot programs, but now we're doing a big scale program. We're rolling out photovoltaics on all our sites. We did a pilot at 2 power stations at our head office. We're now extending the footprint to all our facilities, power stations and buildings. And we are starting with our concentrated solar demonstration plant as well in the Northern Cape. We also have a significant role as the counterparty for independent power purchasing programs, power producer programs, and we have 3 roles that we play in the current market. The first is that we are the counterparty to these PPAs. We are the single buyer. We sign up the PPAs for whatever terms, 15 to 30 years, and so we have ring-fenced a system and market operator unit to act as that buyer, and then to aggregate that tariff within from all the purchases from imports as well as our own power generation, and then provide a wholesale tariff. And so we've done that. We also, in many cases, act as a connection, grid connector. There are some, for the renewable energy program, the 27 of the 28 are connecting to our grid. So we've set up a dedicated unit to connect and to act as a customer services agency. And then lastly, we are the system operators, so we've got to ensure that the system security is maintained, and we're going to learn as we integrate the renewable energy programs. Each country has to learn based on its own dynamics. So in conclusion, firstly, from a future focus, Africa and South Africa is facing a challenging but very exciting period. If you're a power engineer, if you're interested in market regulations, I think you better move to Africa. I think this is where the growth is, and but we need, with that, bold and immediate decisions. We've got to put the infrastructure in place that allows the economy to grow, but ensures that all sectors of our economy participate. We need a very robust and adequate transmission grid so we can create flexibility and allow resources to be accessed from throughout, not just South Africa, but the region. And this must be a strategic investment made by government. We believe that energy storage and smart grid technology is maturing and will be the key to mini-grid development to meet local residential and commercial needs, and we've got to monitor that. We've seen that financial subsidies in both Europe and US to support renewable energy programs are not sustainable, and we've got to figure out how to create alternative mechanisms to support these sectors and to meet ambitious targets. And we've got to learn as South Africa from those lessons. The RP implementation has to consider game changers as well that are evolving as we go ahead. Eskom, in partnership with government, has launched a 49 million campaign. And I would be remiss without concluding on asking you to join us in this partnership. And it's a very simple message. If you're not using it, please switch it off. So when you go back to your hotel rooms as well, I hope Sandton, wherever in Sandton, the hotels have got LED light bulbs. I saw some of them here. But also in your rooms, please use electricity and water and energy wisely. Thank you.